Hey everyone, welcome to the Pregnancy After 40 podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Johnson, and I am so excited to have this interview today. I first learned about this guest, Bettina Gordon, last year sometime. I was doing an internet search when I was looking at Pregnancy After 40 podcast, and her name was the first one to pop up, and I have been
Oh,
following her ever since. So you didn't know that, did you?
no, I didn't. Yay.
And she popped up, and I was like, I have to have her on the podcast at some point. So, um, Bettina's mantra is it's never too late to live the life you love, reinvent successfully, and defy aging along the way. She had her baby, her son, at 44, but there was a progression in her life after 40 overall. And I think that the things that she speaks about to women overall is just so encouraging, especially as women age 40 and over, which is also my demographic, which I love. I love being 40 and over. My best life has been since 40. So, with all
Yes.
that, Bettina, thank you for joining us today.
I am so glad. Thank you for having me, Michelle, and very nice to finally meet you face to face.
I know, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we've texted and we've done some other chats and all that, but I don't think, yeah, we haven't done the video part. So, but I feel like we have. That's crazy.
I know. I know. This is the beauty of technology these days.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so when we first started speaking, when we kind of met over the phone, you were telling me a little bit about your story, and how, everything that came to be in your life, around 40 years old. So, if you can just kind of tell us,
Mm.
your transformation, your transition, your thought process, how that changed right before you started trying to have your son.
Yes, 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 absolutely. So first of all, I wanted to say hello to everybody. My heart is beating for all the women over 40 who want to have children because it is such a beautiful experience. But very often the stories that come to us from the outside paint a different picture. So I'm so glad that you're doing your podcast because I really want to speak about the beauty and the benefits of being a mom over 40. And for me, there are many women that I've spoken to since I had my child who feel that motherhood was always in the cards for them, that they wanted to be moms and they were desiring that. And this is something that I always love children. I mean, I love them. I get along super, super well with them, but I did not really have the feeling that motherhood, that I would like to have a child until later on in life. So, first of all, I did not meet my husband until I was in my late 30s. As it is so often, for us women, it is not that we forget to have children. Again, many of us, we would have had like our children to have them at a much earlier age, but we cannot just pull the partner we want to have it with out of thin air. That's not how it works. So for me, we just yesterday we had our 15-year anniversary of meeting, not getting married, but of meeting.
Okay,
So I was
congratulations.
in my mid late 30s when we met and got married, and then both of my husband and I, we couldn't really figure out, do we want to have children or not. We were both not so eager. And for example, and that I think is also important, when I turned 40, I said, okay, so we give this a try. And for 1 year nothing happened, no child, nothing, nada, no pregnancy, nothing. However, like if we would have gone at that point to a fertility clinic, they would have diagnosed us for sure with unexplained infertility because there was nothing wrong. I conceived at 43, so 3 years later. So there was nothing other in the way than what I believe was my mindset. And we'll get to that in a second. But we did not go to any fertility clinic because we were, as I said, I was still ambivalent. And then we let it go. We said, okay, so we're fine without children. And then at the age of 42, I remember waking up one morning. We were living in Washington, D.C. already at the time. Previously, I was in New York City, and I was waking up one morning and I looked around and I thought that my life was actually, for all intents and purposes, lovely. I was a journalist, I had a career, I had an awesome husband already. I was looking around, but I felt, and I think this is an evolution that many of us go through in our 40s, when we have life experience and we already had a great career, or at least is a, successful, however you define it, doesn't really matter. There comes a time when we evaluate, is this really working well for us still? And for me, that morning, I realized, no, it's not. And I literally thought in my mind, I said to myself, dear God, please let there be more to my life than that. And that was a huge realization that put me on a path of being super productive in my 40s. So first of all, I really realized I would be missing out on the experience of having my own child. And simultaneously, my husband also felt, he's a little bit younger than I am, but he also felt like that. And so lo and behold, that was at 42. At 43, I'm thinking, okay, I'm finally ready to have a child, which is also funny because I had him then at 44. So at 43, I decided, okay, no, we're trying in earnest now. And then I did what I didn't even know at the time. I went through a period of 3 to 4 months. I just think that did this instinctively. I did not know at that point that this is actually how you should prepare for motherhood. So even at 43, when everybody else says, oh my God, you wasted your chances, you're too old, you can't do it anymore, I'm like, no. But here's the advantage that I had, that I was not listening to all these voices yet or at all, because I am third generation of women who have the children in their 40s. My mindset always was, of course you have children in your 40s. When else? My grandmother back in the late 40s had her second child in her 40s. My mother was 42 when she had me. So for me, this was of course. So at 43, I go through a preparation phase that I just did instinctively, not knowing. And lo and behold, we get pregnant naturally, quickly. Yeah. And I deliver at age 44. However, by then, Michelle, I really felt this is so beautiful and so beneficial to be a mature woman who had life experience, who had the ups and downs. We mastered it. I was by then in a super stable relationship that I did not have before, and it felt like the puzzle pieces come together. And then I had my boy, and I'm like, as a trained journalist, I don't know if I mentioned this, so I'm a journalist by trade. What was the natural thing? I want to write a book about this experience and share it with the world. And then, Michelle, I did what just every woman in this planet with access to a computer does, so I'm sitting. Actually, my son was maybe 6 weeks, and I remember it was a weekend, a Saturday, just like today, 7 years ago in DC, and I have my baby here in the crook of my arm, and being a journalist, I reach over to the computer, open it up, and make the same mistake that everybody makes. I put in search words like pregnancy over 40 or getting pregnant over 35, and then major mistake, never ask Dr. Google for advice.
Right.
I hit the return key, and bam, one headline that is negative more than the other, the previous one. Right. It was, really, I did not know how bad it was until I researched my book. Because again, it was not on my radar. For me, I grew up, it's like, okay, totally normal. So I never looked for these stories. I did not know. I usually don't live under a rock, and I'm a journalist, so actually I'm pretty tuned into what's happening in the world. But for that, I completely missed that. And Michelle, and I'm reading this and I see, fertility dropping into free fall after 40, all the risks for the baby and for the mom. It's only about her age and such. And I'm reading this, and I went from feeling really good about being a mature mom and wanting to share the beauty with a large audience. I went from feeling strong and beautiful and great about it to over here feeling anxious and scared, that could this even be possible? At some point I had this crazy thought, like, could I even have a child at my age? And I was sitting there with my baby, you have these irrational thoughts.
So that's very interesting. I'm going to interrupt just real quick. I mean, it's very interesting because, you already had your son.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually most women, they do that search before they have a baby, immediately when they find out that they're pregnant in their 40s. And that's,
Yes.
that's what happened to me. That's what spawned all of this, was because when I started looking into it, like I was just so scared and terrified that I was not even going to make it to delivery, or something was going to happen, or something was going to be wrong with my son if he was delivered. So all those things come, and thank God, like we have the group with thousands of women who are having babies, and that's not the case. Do they happen? Yeah, but not not in the numbers that I think Google tells us.
No,
Right?
exactly. And my point really was also that this is the power of the stories. This is the power of the words that come to us. That even I, who was sitting there with my child, felt that wave of anxiety and fear washing over me, and thinking this can't be true. So even I was sitting there. This is just to drive home exactly what you said, that the power of the words and the media, and what kind of information we let in at a very delicate time of our lives, really has an impact on us. It
Right.
totally has an impact on us. And I also, when I read that, I felt like, no, hang on a second, this can't be the only narrative that we have. Because I also started to get really angry. I thought, like, there are literally millions of women around the world who will make the best mothers a child could ever wish for, but we are made to feel guilty, ashamed, less fertile, less everything, because we are now over 40. And I thought, like, this can't be the only narrative. And this is why I set out to write my book, The Joy of Later Motherhood. Did you read it? Do you have it? But you saw it, right?
I did see it, yes.
Yeah. So I set out, that was the reason, the realization that I like, no, we need to change the narrative, because we're only getting the negative stories right now. But there is actually a world, in my experience and from my research, of women over 40 who are fertile, who have the children, as we know, naturally, or also with IVF. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, there is a whole other world of us out there. And I went and I conducted the interviews of women in the 40s who had their children naturally, because this is not what we are told. Usually we're always told you need to go the IVF route as soon as you hit a certain age, and your eggs are getting too old, you're getting too old anyway, your eggs are no good anymore, and all this negative messaging. And so I went and I researched. I did not even do professional research, honestly. I just, at the time, so I had my son and I had a few friends, 6 at the time. We all had our children in our 40s, natural conception here in DC. Yeah. And I thought, okay, as a journalist, I want to present more women like that in the book. And I never went onto my own social media channels and asked to be connected, that I'm doing research for my book. I never did that. I never went to any forum to look for the women. I just asked my friends. I said, hey, who else do you know? Who else do you know? And Michelle, within a matter of a few weeks, I had over 60 women lined up, all in the 40s, who had the first children past their 40th birthday. And some of them went on to have 3 children, like Claudia Schwar, like 1, 2, 3 children, all in our 40s. And so I did not even do professional research. I just said, okay, please connect me. And within such a short time, I had so many women to interview. And this is really when I realized also that these statistics that we usually see in the media, they don't tell the whole story. Right. I have yet to see a big, large study on women over 40 who conceived naturally. What we have is great data from the infertility clinics. They are, that's the bread and butter. They really need to keep great data. And this is where the statistics come from. Primarily, not all the time, of course, but there's the data that comes from that source, where couples go when they already have experienced difficulties. But I'm telling you, my story, their stories, I don't know about your story, but I am not in any kind of statistic. Nobody ever asked me any question. How often I tried, how long it took, nothing,
Right.
It's just called, oh, it's a spontaneous conception at the geriatric age. I'm like, hello, are you crazy people? So
Yeah.
it's like there's so much wrong with that narrative. And so I really learned that there's a whole other world out there. And these women told the story with such honesty and such love for all the other women reading the stories, that I was super, super appreciative. And that's also the success of the book, why it is so popular, because women like us, there are no celebrities in the book on purpose.
Right.
It's
Right.
women like us. I mean, please, celebrities have the same issue that we
Right.
have. I mean, they're human just as we are, but I'm saying also, um, for them, they may have more access to finances and such. So I didn't. It's really us. It's our stories, and that makes the book so different and so special. And I get emails, or the other day phone calls from women thanking me to write the book, which I always find very moving. But the truth is, it's the women that share the stories. I'm just the storyteller, the conveyor
Right.
of their stories. But there's a whole other world of fertility out there, and I made this my passion, which I hope comes across, to really tell that story, that there's hope, there is resilience, there's overcoming.
Yeah.
And there's so many beautiful babies in this world, to moms that
Yeah.
are awesome because we're old and we are more mature.
Yeah.
I love it.
I oftentimes get when people join the pregnancy after 40 group, and I usually will message people when they come in, and then they'll have people who say, "Well, I'm 39, I'm 40. Is it too late for me to have a baby?" And I'm thinking, "Wow, like you're young to me now. Like you have so
I
much
know.
time because
I know.
there's women who are conceiving naturally at 47."
Mm-hmm.
And some at 48, like that I know. And I know there's other stories out there, but the ones that are kind of like in the group, they conceive naturally, in their later 40s. So like 40, I'm like, oh
Yep.
my gosh, you're like a baby,
I
right?
know.
So I'm gonna go back a little bit. So you said when you decided, you were like, okay, we're gonna try in earnest to try to have our son. You said you did a little bit of preparation for a few months. What was that preparation?
As far as I remember, because I didn't write anything down then, just I really cleaned up more of my diet. I took some supplements. Please don't ask me which ones, because it's too long. Again, I just did this instinctively. I had by then, what tripped me up, and this is what I also learned then, or realized even more while I was doing my book, is that we think that pregnancy is just a physical affair, that it's just two bodies coming together and making a baby, and that is so not true. It is, the physicality is just part of it. There's the emotional part, there's the mental part, there's of course the dietary, there's the whole health aspect, a spiritual part to conceiving a child. And what had tripped me up was I had very difficult thoughts about motherhood in general, and they were like very contradicting. On one hand, I say, okay, I want to have a child when we tried in our 40s. But inside, I was like, no, 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 hang on a second. I'm going to be constricted. I'm going to be like, I presented one persona to the outside, but internally, it was very, very different.
Okay.
And it took me over 2 years to get my mindset into the right space to really conceive a child. And that's why, moving, since I published the book, this is what I help women with, primarily with their mindset, because that is what tripped me up. And I think for me, looking back, yes, I did the 3 months of preparation before I got pregnant, but I actually did 2+ years, and I became a certified mental strength trainer during that time. And just as I finished, the education, I took it in Europe, and the latter part of that education was in Italy. And the last day, when I was there, this is when I found out I'm pregnant. It was like the craziest thing. I found out that I'm pregnant. So for me, I had really worked for 2+ years on my mindset. And can I prove it? No. But I think every woman, we know ourselves the best.
Right.
And I think very like 100% or make it 99%. I think it was my mindset and that I had worked on for a couple of years that really set me apart.
Yeah.
That brought it forth, the
So
pregnancy.
yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So it's interesting that you say, it's actually like the mental part of it, mental and
Yeah.
emotional part that takes longer than the physical part of it.
Yes.
There's also so many women that come in that say, they have been to a fertility specialist. All their tests come back fine and they can't find anything wrong, yet they still can't conceive. And so, my first thing is, do you do meditation? Do you do yoga? Like, what do you do for like your mind, your peace of mind, to relax? Because stress is very real. I know the times that I was trying to get pregnant, it didn't seem to happen. Then I was kind of like, you know what, let me just stop and and relax and reset. Like it would be those times that I conceived. So mental is huge. So
Yeah.
what would you suggest to a woman? Just a couple of things. I know you have a whole book, you have a whole training on it, but just like a couple easy things for a woman to do who, again, all tests have come back fine. They're getting regular cycles and they're kind of good, but they're still unable to conceive. And they have this anxiety, this month to month, every month, this disappointment of their period coming. And then it's kind of like, oh gosh, like another month goes by. What would you
Yes.
tell someone who's in that situation?
Yeah. I think having that community of 40 plus women that you have created here is the number one step, that she's not alone, that she realizes there are other women like her out there, and that we can come together and support each other. It is of utmost importance to do a work on your mindset on two different levels. The first one is from the outside. So by being here, I hope that we've driven home the point enough that age is not your number one predictor of your fertility, even though everybody and the grandmother will say so. Only because so many people are saying it, that doesn't mean it's true. Your age is, there is the chronological age and there is your biological age. And you can be 45 chronologically and 40 biologically. Like, for example, because of the lifestyle that I lived at that time, later on, I found out that my biological age is almost 6 years younger. My biological than the one that is in my driver's license. This is significant. So the number is not indicative of your fertility. However, the conversations that we're having, the media that comes to us from the outside, I would really say, please stop Googling any kind of stories that deal with infertility, that deal with age. Go into your phone, because by now the algorithm has detected this is what you're looking for, this is what you get more of. Yeah, that you really go on a sort of a media diet. Let that be outside. You already know it, what's going to be, what's outside. Stop it. Be very mindful what you let in. Be mindful, like, for example, test it yourself, how much you could be affected by the stories from the outside. Just watch a movie, a horror movie. I mean, if you're really into that, it doesn't work. But for everybody else, you watch a movie and you see that, or the news. Just read the news, yeah, the headlines. And when you start feeling like, do this in the morning one day, notice how you're feeling, and then read the headlines, read some stories, and then check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Because I'm a member of the media, I can tell you what you get presented are the negative news 90% of the time, because if it bleeds, it leads. You are going to be more likely to hit that link if it's a scary headline than not. So this is why we get presented. So this is, first of all, from the outside. Shield yourself, protect yourself from the negative messaging that come from the outside. That is really, really number one. I always say, step away from the stats buffet, go away from the things that come from the outside. And this is even way more important. I'm just focusing on age right now. What we say to ourselves is even way more important than what's happening from the outside, because yes, the negative messaging comes from the outside. However, And I did a YouTube video about this not too long ago. Maybe we can link to it. It's on my YouTube channel, Never Too Late with Bettina Gordon. There is ageism from the outside, but true ageism, my dear, is an inside job. Because the messages that coming from the outside, we are extremely good in internalizing it and holding on to what a doctor once said, what a person of authority once said to us, and that sticks with us. It's really inside us. And there's a big part of realizing what's happening is realizing what you yourself think about your age. Are you afraid of it? So please just sit down with a piece of paper, no judgment, no nothing. What do you think yourself about getting older? Because we all have, with a number, we are attaching a story to a number. And in our case, for this conversation, it's very often oh, I'm getting older, my eggs are getting worse, there's nothing I can do about this. It's like it's a panic mode. Because there's nothing we can do about it. That goes on. The chronological age goes on. We can do a lot about it on the emotional, mental, physical level. I mean, there is ways to really improve your body's age. But we have still internally to that age a story attached, an emotion attached, and the emotion very often is that of stress, sometimes even despair, because you cannot stop that clock, it's ticking. And then a consequence, it's the story and emotional consequence that we attach to our age. And the consequence may be not even so real to you, you may not be noticing it. But if you don't believe that you can't get pregnant because you're getting older and older and older, you may be subconsciously sabotaging yourself. Your body is going to be more stressed than in fight or flight mode. But B, you may be also putting some hurdles in front of you may not stick to that fertility diet that you're following enough. You may not, do certain things that you are supposed to be doing because you don't believe in it. And I really want to also make that point, though, that can you think yourself infertile? I don't know. I would never blame a woman. I had doctors, a doctor once say that she used to deliver babies to women that were in the mid to late 40s in Boston at the hospital, and they came from a Catholic background, a Christian Catholic background. And this doctor said to me, you know why these women, they came in and had babies 46, 7, 48, 49, because nobody told them that they couldn't. So there is something big about that mindset, but that does not mean that because you're thinking negative thoughts that you can't get pregnant. Please hear me. It's also very important that we realize that we ourselves we're taking on so much of the responsibility of having the child, of bringing it forward. We take so much on of the guilt of, oh my God, I'm too old, too late, too whatever. I can't do this. The one thing that I'm supposed to be doing really easily, I can't do anymore. So we as women, we always carry that baton, I think, when you do the relay running, through the generation. We were always the ones who got blamed. If a couple couldn't have children, we were always the ones that are blamed. But today we also know that if a couple struggles with fertility, 50% female, 50% male. In the whole circle, a third of it is the man's challenge only, a third is the woman's challenge only, and one third is the couple together. So it's really a 50-50 thing. And so please never think that you are thinking yourself infertile and that you are the one to blame. No. Just notice what is going on in externally and internally, and start cleaning up there. These are the two biggest pillars in the mindset equation of getting pregnant that I would like to share here. This is really, it's like the outside, but the inside is even more important. Just realize what you yourself are thinking about, and then it is so important to switch this out with the fact that you are at the perfect age to have your child, that you are at the perfect place in your life to have the child and grow it up in a way in that would not have been possible even like maybe 5, 10, let alone 20 years ago. And I know it sounds so weird, but I'm very happy I was 44 when I had my son and not 41, because it was remarkable the change that I went through thinking about motherhood and what my programming was and how I got rid of that. I was a very different mother at age 44 than I would have been at 43. I know that sounds odd. It's 3 years and it's in your 40s. By now you should have figured it out. But anyway, it's true.
Yeah. And you'll keep on changing. Like you'll keep on like improving yourself as each year goes by. So when you go to Bettina's website, the first thing that comes up, you'll see that she was a mom at 44 and she was an author at 46. And then she kicked cancer's butt at 48.
That was busy.
Yeah. And she became a YouTuber at 50. So, you know, having a baby over 40 is one thing, but your life doesn't end there, or that's not the pinnacle. Like there's more things to achieve. You could have stopped, or cancer could have stopped you from going further in life and doing more. How is it that you got through the cancer scare, the cancer treatment, and all that to reinvent yourself again at 50?
I really think I'm just getting started. Michelle, I know that sounds really weird. Well, no, I got started in my 40s. You know, I really kicked into gear, and that realization, God, let there not all there is to my life, just gave me also, I think with Hunter, and then this book, I wanted to write a book at the age of 22 for the first time, but this book gave me so much more. Like I had stories to tell, I had lives to influence to the positive. I wanted to change that narrative, so it gave me so much more meaning. And then the cancer thing that came a little bit out of nowhere, I'm telling you, it was so for me, my lifestyle was so good that I thought I will never have cancer, never, you know. And so when I went had a mammogram and so on, and then they wanted to do the biopsy, and I never picked up the results of the biopsy for weeks because I don't have cancer. Side note, the hospital forgot to call me, you know, so that is not a good thing, you know. But for me, so I don't have cancer. And I go eventually, because I was in the neighborhood of the hospital in DC here, I go and get my result. And I was with a friend of mine in the car and said, hey, Michelle, just waiting for a second. I run up. I'll be down in 10 minutes. I just get my results. And I go up there, and it was a young doctor. So they let you wait. And then there was this really young, lovely doctor that came in with the, you know, the pieces of paper. And I said to her, hey, I just want to quickly get out of here. You would have called me anyway if something was wrong. And she was like, no, we found some invasive tumor. And I'm like, that can't be. I don't do cancer. I do health.
Right.
I really said that to her. And Michelle, like now in hindsight, it's funny. I can laugh about it, but not in that moment. But and she was like, she didn't know what to do. Did she give me the pieces of paper and said, no, here, look, you do. Anyway, so I had this cancer journey but you know what I also learned when she gave me the diagnosis, and I was sitting with the diagnosis, you know, that when you get the diagnosis of infertility, it can hit you as hard as a cancer diagnosis. And I remember specifically then sitting there thinking, oh, that's what it could feel like when you get the diagnosis of infertility, because it is huge. It is huge. And then what I did, I worked on my cancer mentally, you know. I made sure that this was just a diagnosis, but nothing that defined me, nothing that really got a hold of me. I never identified with being a person with cancer. And I don't know if this is helpful or not, but that was my way. I also I never hated on my cancer. I never used words like, I'm going to fight it, I need to destroy the cells, I need to be for me, again, instinctively, I felt I need to love my cancer cells because they are here. My body produced it. My body is not my enemy. My body is just sharing with me that there's something wrong and that my body needs help. And so I was sending, like, I never hated on my boobs. I never feared them. I never, I was just like, what is this teaching me? So I went into that kind of mind frame that I found really helpful. So I never took on the diagnosis too much. It was just, okay, this is a temporary hiccup in my health journey. And it got a little bit intense because I was thinking I am done with one surgery. It's called a lumpectomy. We just take it out and that's it. And then it turns out, no, there was way more cancer in my breast than any of the MRIs had shown. So then I ended up, and there's a connection now with my boy. I ended up doing a double mastectomy that at the beginning of the journey, I would have never said I would, never. It was way too drastic for me. I'm like, I went the natural way right away, and I did both. I did the combination of the Eastern and the Western medicine. But at the end, I did it. And I remember sitting in, my boy was 4 years old at the time. We're sitting in the bed, and I'm like, oh shit, what should I do? Should I really, do the big surgery or not? And I'm sitting there crying. And at some point, my little boy looks up. He was doing something, he was playing with something, and said, Mommy, why are you crying? And I said to him something like, oh, I'm just figuring out what to do next. And he, and went back to playing his things. It's like, but at the end, I made the choice to do this drastic surgery. It was a 12-hour surgery because of the reconstruction that they did at the same time. I just did it because I thought, okay, what gives me the best chance to never have to deal with cancer again in the next 50 years? And what gives me the best chance to be with my family for the next 50 years? And I'm totally determined to never have to deal with cancer again. I just share my story here because it's, as you say, life goes on and there are more challenges I had, but I really feel that also with cancer, I made use of the time that I had with it. It's the biggest personal growth phase that I ever went through. And I think any kind of diagnosis, when as a woman you don't get pregnant right away, and then they call this unexplained infertility. I mean, what do you do with that? It is a huge personal growth phase that I would encourage and any woman listening to us today to really make use of that time and grow yourself even more. That's how I approached cancer. That's how I approached anything. And now for me, it's like I'm hitting my strides. There's more that I want to tell. There's more that I want to talk about. There's more that, the cancer gives me now also more authority to speak about with women who have the challenges. I understand it more, and I can, I think, be more of assistant to also help her out of that space where she could be, because it is a lot. We need to do it ourselves, because again, also with cancer, there's so much coming to you from the outside, and different. I did alternative and allopathic medicine at the same time, and both, they have their own agenda. They want you to do your own thing and let their thing, and they don't want you to do your own thing. They want to do their thing and their thing. And I just really also learned to say no. If it doesn't feel right, I don't want it. I don't do that. Like to really stand up for yourself and not be pushed into doing something that your body, every fiber in your body says, no, that's not the right thing. So it's life is such a big learning experience. And especially now, after 2020, and now how do we move forward in life? What kind of life do we want to create? And so I think I'm like now in my 50s, which I find so funny. So at 50, usually 15-year-olds start a YouTube channel. No, I did it at 15 just now. It's a hot 3 months old or 4 months now. So I'm learning. We had this conversation, you and I, Michelle, just before we started, technology and everything. So I'm learning so much, but that keeps me also engaged and passionate because I really, really want to change the narrative, how we women think about age, how we think about our own bodies, because the healing ability of our bodies is huge. Yeah. I only had surgery. I never did anything other. I did no chemo, no radiation. They didn't ask me for radiation anyway, but I really wanted also my body to be that as in top form to heal itself too, to do really the combination mind, body, spirit. It's it's real. The connection is real. I can only say that. And bringing it together and then moving forward, I really want to change how we think about getting older, I really feel I'm getting stronger and better, and it's good. Yeah. I'm not 15, I'm 50 and have my YouTube channel now.
Right. So yes, you have a YouTube channel, you have your book. How else do you work with women who are over 40? To get them into the mindset of they can do almost anything or they can do what they want to do after 40. How else do you work with women? Do you speak to women, and do you coach women? Do you?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us how that you do.
Yes, I do. I coach with women on the mindset, the fertility mindset. And we can maybe put a link to that to the URL into the show notes here. But I'm also, I'm expanding, I'm speaking on the topic, I'm doing more videos in general, because this conversation about age and ageism is so prevalent and so important for us to have. And it also, pertains to career choices. It pertains to motherhood, career choices, health choices that we are making, dreams that we are giving up prematurely because we think by now we're getting too old and our ships have sailed. Those dreams that we still have. So I do that too. Coaching is part of what they do, but I only do it for motherhood. Okay. Everything else I do in the speaking, in the writing, and in my new YouTube channel venture.
Okay, so I just kind of want to reiterate, I guess, the mindset part, because I find that so many women on the outside look like they have it all together, just like you. Like when you were like in your early 40s, you were kind of like, I have a good life, right? And you were probably speaking that, so people see you as this confident woman, has everything together. But on the inside, something is missing, or you can be panicking on the inside or something like that. I know for me, and this is not directly pregnancy related, but I remember like 40 being like, oh my gosh, I have to be married by the time I'm 40. Like if I don't get married by the time I'm 40, I'm probably destined to be by myself, or I won't have any more kids. Yes. I was thinking all of that, and I was panicking. So I was making decisions based on my fear. And then when 40 kind of, and it actually was playing a part into my body, because I was like stressing, at one point, just not in the best of relationships, my hair was falling out. I wasn't sleeping at night. I was kind of thinking, well, should I be in this particular relationship? I know his issues, or should I try something new? But, fear will hold you back. And then I turned 40, right?
Yes.
And it was just kind of like, oh, well, I'm no longer going to beat this clock. Like I'm 40 now. And I kind of like just calmed down. Right. And then a year and a half later, I have a baby at 41. And then 8 months after that, I got pregnant again. I did miscarry, but then again, got pregnant again 2 months after that. Had another baby at 43. But, I got married, before I had my first son, but I was in a different place mentally. And so we present something to the world on the outside, but we haven't dealt with the things that we need to deal with internally. And it sounds like you kind of went through something similar. Yes. So I always want to reiterate that. Like it was definitely not my plan to have kids in my 40s. I thought I was going to be done, way early. But sometimes things are meant to be, because you need to go through some things. I really believe that by the time you reach 40, we all have a story to tell. Everyone has a story to tell, because you've experienced so much. So, it's up to you, kind of what you do with that. But my thing is rethinking and redefining your life after 40, and love, relationships, and career. And pregnancy, after 40 is definitely in there. So, I mean, I thank you for, writing the book, because that's how, I kind of first was drawn to you. You came to my attention and, speaking about it. So I think it's awesome that you're out there and you're coaching women. Um, and I think the biggest thing that you said is like the transition again. It took you like 2 years to get to where you needed to be mentally
Yeah.
before you had your son.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be 2 years. That's why I'm helping women now.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
have to be
Like,
that long.
yeah, like go to people who've been through it and they can help you cut out some of that time because we are 40. So
yes, exactly. Significantly.
There's still about
significantly. And Michelle, yeah, and I just wanted, you said it so perfectly when 40 was looming. You did exactly what I described before. You had a story about 40, what it means. Oh my God, if I'm not going, I need to be married by 40. You had an emotion attached to that, and that was the fear. And then you had the consequence that you were, being stressed out and everything. So it's huge what we think about our age. It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, hits us as women more so than men. But yeah, so it's amazing. Like to me, it's amazing, like the things you can learn. Like there's so much. And I love that when women come into the group, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so encouraged by all of these stories.
Yes.
Every week, we have a list now of women who are giving birth. Before it started, every Friday, we do a list of who has announced that they had babies. And we started not even a year ago, probably like 7-8 months ago. And it used to start off with like 5 to 8 members. And then we reached like 18 members one week that gave birth within the previous week. And so I don't know if we've reached
wow,
but like yesterday, today is Saturday that we're recording. I know it's like a good 10 women in the group who've had babies over 40. So it's just so encouraging. It's so amazing.
Yes. I'm so happy you founded the group and that you're so engaged in changing the narrative. That is so beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful mama of.
Yeah, there's not just one of us. It's the whole community, the whole world of us, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's important.
And we can help each other. We can support each other. We can lift each other up. Because, like you had a miscarriage. I had a miscarriage. Like who didn't? My mother had 8 miscarriages.
Wow.
8, and then my brother then, and I'm child number 10 and the only girl.
Wow.
But what if she would have stopped, if my parents would have given up? There were 6 miscarriages, then my brother, then 2 more, and then me. So it's like, you never know why things happen and how we can turn out. I mean, I'm glad my parents didn't stop because I wouldn't be around.
Right.
Right.
So we'll speak on that real quick before we tune out. The miscarriage part, which is huge because it's devastating.
Yes.
And it's a loss. And everyone processes differently. How did you process your miscarriages to get back to your norm?
Yeah. So mine happened early. It happened on not particularly timely on Christmas Eve. So there was not again. But I think, and it happened after I had my son already.
Okay.
So I think that also makes a difference. And because at that time I had already started writing my book, and I had interviewed my mother on her experience. And so for me, knowing where she was and how late she lost all her boys, they were old enough to know that they were old boys when she miscarried. And it had to do with her. She was a chemist, and it was in the laboratory, the fumes. At the time, nobody knew, but she would have like she would be pregnant for a few months and then have some spotting, stay home for a couple of weeks, and then return to the laboratory, and then she would miscarry. But somehow people didn't connect one-on-one together. So I think I did not, I handled it pretty well because of my mother's experience. Because I knew what she had gone through, and I thought like, oh, that's one. And then also by the time I just thought, okay, so we'll just try again. we'll just try again. But I know it can be, especially what I could not, like the longer yeah. I also by then, but by then I also knew that it is rather, it's not normal, but it's common.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, it's important to speak about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sometimes I still feel connected to the spirit of my girl. Now, if we want to go the spiritual route, but yeah, there's a connection to a female spirit baby that just didn't come through.
Gotcha.
How did you handle it?
So mine was a little differently. So I can compartmentalize probably more than some people. And, I'm an attorney, so I just kind of like, let's just get things done.
Mm-hmm.
So I miscarried. Mine was on Easter Sunday. We had family over.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were all we were sitting, my parents were over, my husband's parents were over, my son was there, my daughter was there. And I kind of remember feeling something. We were talking about, oh, we want a girl. I want a girl. No, I didn't want a girl. My husband and my daughter wanted a girl. I wanted another boy.
Okay.
We were just kind of like just talking about that. And then I felt something internally. And I was just I went to the restroom and the baby just kind of came out. Like I knew it. And I was cramping and I was bleeding. And I remember that and called the OB. They were just like, we'll just come in, tomorrow and we'll take a look at you. And when they checked me out, they were like, okay, there's nothing here. The sac is gone. And all of that. And so, I had my follow up after that. Probably, I don't know, a couple weeks later. And OB was like, well, do you want to try again? And I was just like, yeah, we do. She was like, well, just wait one cycle and you can try again. And I was like, okay. And I wanted to get it done. Like I wanted it to happen. And yeah, I took I got the fertility app and put in my dates, and my first fertile period came up. Me and my husband, we just had fun. But we we capitalized on the opportunity.
Yes.
And I was pregnant the next month. I found out the day after my son's first birthday party that I was pregnant again. So
Wow.
and I actually didn't think it was going to happen that soon, but it did. So I was just kind of like, and I think I mourned maybe a week or two after the loss,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt like I couldn't stay in that place if I wanted to conceive again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just more hopeful, like, okay, we'll just try again. And we kind of, it happened really, really quickly from an emotional standpoint for me. And everyone, again, like everyone is different. So some people choose to honor their angel babies with tattoos or like little memorials or whatever it is they need to do every year, which is, fine. Someone asked me, well, how did you deal with your loss? Mine is different. Like I don't want everyone to think that they have to be like me. I think however you mourn, however you process is personal to you. Whatever you need to get through. Some people use yoga. I remember, we had a guest on here who was a prenatal yoga therapist, and she got through a miscarriage. But she said the techniques of yoga helped her get through it. So everyone's process is different. So yeah, that's the story. But yeah, at the end of the day,
Can yeah. No, I just wanted to ask you, why do you think that you got pregnant so quickly again? Is there something that you think contributed the most to the pregnancies?
I don't know. Maybe it was kind of mindset, and I think that I thought that it was not going to happen at that moment, but I thought we can try it, and we had fun. Even my husband will remember that time period. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that."
That will always be your baby. Oh yeah, remember.
So I don't think I put so much pressure on myself to get pregnant that next month. I was just kind of like, well, let me just go through the motions at this point. And also probably health wise, was more conscious of my diet and walking and getting back into exercising and all of that. Just and I think a big part of it though was not stressing. about it. I mean, I wanted it to happen, but I wasn't expecting it to happen. I was giving myself like 3 months, I think, before I, started panicking again. So it happened early.
There's the lawyer coming through. 3 months. And then
before I start panicking. 3 months.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you said you had your miscarriage after you had your son. So at that point, did you want to have
I think that's
more
also
children?
different.
After miscarriage?
Yeah, my God. Yeah, my dear, we just had this conversation yesterday with my husband. I said, really, I would have loved to have more children. But with us, it was my husband wasn't ready, Michelle. Like in a nutshell, that I miscarried back then. I didn't see it like it's a thank you very much. I wasn't really aware of all the emotions that are still down there, because I just thought if I would have not miscarried, then it would have happened. But then it never did, because my husband was so stressed at that time. And we had Hunter, our son, and my husband could not physically or emotionally, he was not ready. He was not ready, and we spoke about it yesterday on our anniversary. I said, honey, I really would have loved to have more children. And he apologized, and he says, yeah, I'm so sorry, I was not in that period of time. The few years that we had after, he was not in that time frame. And now at 50, I really believe, my body is cranking out the period every time on the right time. It's, it's happening. I believe I could, if we really, 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 really wanted to, could try again. However, after the cancer, after everything that we went through, I made peace that I still long for my girl. There's this connection that I have. I still totally long for her daily, but I know she's not going to be born through my body anymore. Maybe she's already born through another woman's body, and maybe circumstances will bring us together. Like, for example, we did go through, almost done with the education to become foster parents. So maybe she's out there already and we will find each other in this life, or maybe not, I don't know. But my husband wasn't ready, and I cannot fault him. He was too stressed. There was too much going on, and now it's maybe she comes to me in a different way. But if I would not have had miscarried back then, that part of my soul would have been complete, or complete her. I don't know. But thank you very much. Thank you. There was so in hindsight, I never really thought about my miscarriage that much until you now brought that up. So yesterday we spoke about it. I would have been a more complete mother, because there's still that open part of my soul that has not found the.
Okay.
It's not filled.
So do you feel like, in another way though, that you are at peace if biologically you don't have another baby?
Okay. Yes. And thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, I feel at peace that biologically I will not have her. And I always felt, it's funny, I always felt more drawn to adoption than having biological children. Like, for me, if I'm pregnant or not it was not, so I did go through pregnancy. I loved being pregnant. I had a great pregnancy. I was not even sick once. I had a natural birth, at 44. So please, ladies, also, a lot of the medical personnel will push us towards a C-section. Question it if you want to do this. So I had the natural birth. I'm totally complete of not having another biological child, and I would love to give a home to a girl who really, how many parents are getting killed in car accidents. How many children are left by circumstances? It's like, it's crazy. It's so maybe hopefully that part, I would love to find her.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but I'm totally fine with the biological. That I'm fine. But the other part is like she's maybe still out there, and hopefully at some point.
Right. Well, I hope you
Find
two
each other.
become connected. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience and being a motivation to so many
Thank
women
you.
after
Thank
40.
you.
So,
And thank you for letting me talk about her just now. That really just meant is like I'm trying to not cry. I don't know if you noticed that, but I'm trying.
yeah, yeah. And so I don't know if I should feel, I feel bad about that. You
Why?
said because you hadn't really talked about it, you know.
But you listen, but you just gave me an opportunity to be speaking my truth
Mm-hmm.
and speaking it to many other women who maybe also feel. I think this is exactly the conversations we need to have. So thank you for also allowing me, because it is so easy for me and maybe for others as well to not be so in touch with what's really going on. And you just gave me that opportunity, for which I am super grateful for.
Well, thank you.
Michelle,
I'm
I'm
glad.
super
I'm glad it
grateful.
was a
Thank
good
you.
thing at the end of the day. Yeah, it's definitely a
Oh,
conversation
yes,
that many
absolutely.
people don't have and they don't process and they don't get to process because, again, as women, we're expected to, because there's no baby at the end of the day and no one sees a baby, we're expected to kind of just get over it and move on. Some people can do that better than others.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's great that,
I
people
think
can
that
talk about
some
it.
people are better in processing. I think, yeah. The
Yeah.
processing is important, and the grieving and the holding and the, yeah.
So we're going to put all your links in the show notes. So, people can contact you and get all your information from your website and the YouTube channel. So, Bettina also describes herself as,
Yes,
what is it, as an adventurer of life? Is that what it is? Am I saying that correctly? She is going to.
Yeah, I don't know what I wrote, but I think adventure, the older we get, the more we need it. The wildness again, being untamed, being who we are, and being not just the roles that we play through life, but the energy, the fire within us, the life force. I want to unleash that more and more.
Yeah. So you
with me?
Yeah. So Bettina and I were texting last week, I think it was, and she was saying she's going to a rodeo out Midwest somewhere, right? And I thought that's amazing.
Yeah, Wyoming, Cody, Wyoming, on the 4th of July. So if you're going to be in Cody, Wyoming on the 4th, rodeo together, please.
I'm going to pass this year, but I hope to take some videos.
Yes, please.
See what's going on over there.
Yeah, okay. We'll make a reservation for next year.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to this episode, to this Pregnancy After 40 episode, and we will see you next time. Again, check out the show notes for all of Bettina's information, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle. It was awesome.